Hey guys, Darkpawra here, back for another sad video. So as you can see by the title, this video is going to be about the State of Imagine, aka Megaten, in 2023. I'm not currently playing Imagine, and I don't really see myself ever playing it again in the future, but I know most of the people subscribed to this channel did play it at one point, or are at least interested, so I thought I'd just come on here and make this little video about what's happened over the past few months. Basically, Atlus is attacking the private server scene, probably more than any other company I've seen, like even more than Nintendo attacks their fan projects. And at this point it's basically over, at least we can hope that it's over. Maybe this is just the first step they're going to take. But we can see the result of what this first lawsuit has done, and we'll talk about it. So I am going to briefly go over this lawsuit, but before we do that I should probably explain the history of the SMT Imagine private server scene. So if you played Imagine back on the live servers, you would know that the US servers shut down in 2014, and following that 2 years later, the Japanese servers shut down in 2016. But pretty much as soon as the Japanese servers were announced to be shut down, a small team started to form, and they had the intention to preserve the game in a similar way to what happened to Toontown or Club Penguin. They took the final client files before the game shut down, and they started to build a server that could interact with the client files exactly like the official server used to do. It took them 3 years to complete it, but over those years they released test builds for people to host their own servers just for beta testing. And from those test builds, 3 public servers arose. You have Reimagine, the one that would have the largest player base basically from the start. You have New Order, aka the Russian server, and that would be the only one that would survive the events to come. And you have Requiemu, the one that would be sued by Atlus. From 2017 to 2021, the 3 servers existed without issue, but the owner of Requiemu had a habit of poking the hornet's nest. They bought the actual URL that Atlus Japan used to host Imagine on back in the day, and used it to host their own private server. They even had the balls to put their own copyright disclaimer next to Atlus's on their stolen URL. But the stupidest thing they did was adding their own server to the Steam database as a third-party game, which is probably how the private server scene got on Atlus's radar in the first place. And that brings us to December 28th, 2021. The lawsuit is filed. Now, if you've read the news articles about this, a lot of them say that Reimagine was the one that got sued. But no, it was definitely Requiemu. And actually, it wasn't just them, they also sued Compaq, the creators of the server software. So you can see in the original filing, they had no idea who these 2 people were. They only knew them as Compaq and Requiemu. They didn't know their real names, they couldn't find out their real names. So it's a John Doe lawsuit, where the names are placeholders with John Doe 1 and John Doe 2. So for the first half of 2022, a bunch of nothing happened. They failed to get either of the person's full names and addresses from GitHub, because GitHub doesn't have any of that information on file. Eventually, they subpoenaed Deluxe Corporation, aka Colo Crossing, which they were able to get Requiemu's full name and address from this company. And eventually they fixed the lawsuit to have his full name Jonathan Sum instead of John Doe 1. So as far as I know, no one in the private server scene knew about this lawsuit until like September 2022. This is August 1st they got his full name. I'm guessing this guy definitely knew about it at this point, because if you keep reading, eventually they start serving him documents. So I bet that's when it definitely started to scare him. So in September 2022 is when things really started to get moving. At some point in this month, Jonathan Sum made a deal with Atlus to cease work and basically just take down everything, and then he'd be let off the hook. And they also served Compaq through email, because they were unable to get an actual name and address for whoever owns Compaq. Then we jump to November 16th, and Jonathan Sum is officially let off the hook. He is out of the lawsuit, and so only Compaq remains. And it looks like they were just about to do a default judgment on Compaq, which means Compaq's not showing up. The judge just has to make a judgment without hearing Compaq's side. So if it actually went through, I think the judge would have sided with Atlus here. And it would have been very bad for other people that were working on projects similar to this, just like preserving old abandonware. But then you see in December 19th, they voluntarily dismissed the lawsuit. And it's come out since then without official confirmation, but we can be pretty certain that someone who worked with Compaq, did make contact with Atlus and made a deal very similar to how Jonathan Sum did. And on this date, December 19th, the Compaq GitHub went down, and so did the Compaq Discord. So that's a brief explanation of the lawsuit from someone that doesn't know anything about law. But something I should have mentioned, when the lawsuit came to light, I think it was this date, September 23rd, Reimagine actually took down everything they had because they were scared shitless that they were going to be sued next, even though they hadn't been sued and they hadn't even been mentioned in the lawsuit. But they took it all down, and pretty much everyone that played on that server was very sad. So just like that, 2 of the 3 big public servers were removed, and the Russian server remained as the only one. And they claim to be immune from any lawsuit because they're hosting from Russia. I'm not really sure if that's true. Just claiming it is probably a good strategy. It might deter the Atlus lawyers for a little bit. I guess we'll see. But assuming that a lawsuit against the Russian server takes as long as this started in 2021 December and ended in 2022 December. So if you start playing the Russian server now, you've probably got a year at least before it gets shut down by a lawsuit. So yeah, that's pretty good. So now we can move on to the ways that you can play Imagine in 2023. The best way you can play this game now is the Russian server. It's quite a bit different from Reimagine if you did play Reimagine, but it has a decently sized community. It has a Discord similar to how Reimagine had it, where people will answer your questions. And if you did play Reimagine, I would say that the Russian server is different enough for it to pique your interest, because they have a comp shop with a lot of gear. Like, there's no fortune cards. You get all your gear through the comp shop. And they have their own custom content and custom demons as well. I think you can see a few on this little ticker image here. So just head to this site, and I guess you click this button. That's a pretty cool animation. New user registration, and yep, you can make an account and log in. Now, if you were looking for a way to host your own server just for you and your friends or something, obviously Atlus would not be very happy about you doing that. But if you still wanted to give it a try, my Discord ID is in the description. You can shoot me a message and I'll try and point you in the right direction to what you need. So other than that, I've heard some rumors that there's a few groups that are building their own servers right now, but nothing's public and there's no guarantee that they'll ever be public, so there's no reason to mention anything specific here. I imagine if anyone ever wants to go public, they may start to advertise on the Russian Discord, so that'll probably be where you hear about it first. So I think that pretty much covers everything I wanted to say. I'll be moving on from Imagine now, and I have plans to post other stuff on this channel now, so maybe you'll stick around for that, maybe you won't. So if you only cared about Imagine, feel free to unsub. But I do want to thank you all for your nice comments over the years, and if I brought you to the Reimagine server, I hope you had a really good time while it lasted. I know I sure did. This has been Darkpawra, signing out of Megaten for the final time. Catch us later.